Welcome to the Coaching Gold Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rudy Jackson, and I'm joined by our co-host, Mr. Dorian Cunion. Dorian, are you ready for another great episode on the Coaching Gold Podcast?
Well, I'm super excited to have Erin on today with us and to really dig into this topic of motivation.
So we want to start by welcoming our guest today, Erin Myers, and we want to begin by allowing Erin the opportunity to introduce herself to our audience.
Well, thank you all for the opportunity to come on today. I am currently in a business where I lead strategic operations across a resourcing company and have also just launched Growth Edge, which is my coaching and consulting practice. This is meant for founders and leaders of small organizations to help them navigate inflection points, uncertainty, and pursue sustainable success. So I'm really excited to be here today with you guys to talk about a very important topic that we all struggle with.
Well, Erin, Dorian and I are super glad to have you here as well. And we want to start is our very first kind of origin question, which is kind of what led you to become a coach?
Yeah. Thank you, Rudy. This is a great question, and it's felt very, very organic for me getting to this point. And like I just shared, this is being formally in the coaching space through Growth Edge is a fairly new thing, but being part of a coaching and leadership experience is not. If we frame it up as I have always been a people person, fascinated by what it takes to help bring our strengths and all the experiences and the skill sets that we possess uniquely as individuals to life, and the impact that when we are bringing our best selves to the communities and the environments or the teams around us, just there's so much juicy goodness in that. And so I've always been fascinated by being a people person. And I also grew up in a household with a very driven entrepreneurial parents and individuals around me. And that's helped to shape my fascination in small business, and was able to witness the opportunities and all the challenges that come alongside that. And so I think it really has started there, being fascinated by how do we empower individuals and really recognize unique skill sets. Part of my career was joining as a marketing lead and part of a marketing contributor at the early starts in a family-owned business called Les Mills. And this was a global organization based out of New Zealand where the family lived, but their entire mission was to help people fall in love with movement and fitness. So you're talking about motivation as a topic today. It couldn't be more fitting. And as that relates to just my journey here, it sparked this intense curiosity around how do we motivate individuals? How do we communicate that? And ultimately, as an organization that has such an intense mission and such a powerful reach, how do we build high-performing teams across every individual country that we're operating in? As I returned from some of the roles in 2020, we all know there was a little bit of shakeup going around the world. I decided to come back into Richmond, where I joined an organization where I'm leading strategic operations. And within this organization, we actually work with leaders to design flexible teams that allow them to be empowered to do their best work. And so you can sense, as we're bringing in creatives and marketers, right now we're in this world of immense change where we're dealing with challenges around AI and what are companies going to do and how do we maintain alignment and clarity amongst our teams. And all of these challenges are morphing together, and we're working with our clients. And we're in this world of what's the workforce doing? How do we bring our companies in alignment with what really matters? And all the while I'm focused on these things, and I'm getting these nudges from friends and colleagues going, when are you gonna jump into this coaching space? And so I thought long and hard and started going through a lot of the formal trainings and working towards ICF's accreditation, which is very important. And ultimately, Growth Edge was born earlier this year. And so that's how I've found my way into this coaching journey.
That's wonderful. We're hearing more and more journeys into coaching. And the one thing I can say that's very consistent is that for most people, it's a very organic journey, and it doesn't start, once you leave high school and you decide to go get a degree, you just got to get the certification. But, life's journey of being in a career and having certain interests, and then folks kind of revealing to you that you're really good at these things that would make you a good coach. And then it sounds like at some point you took the leap. And I'm just really glad you shared that, because I think more people need to have a better understanding of how people come to become a coach. So thank you for that.
I'm super curious about this topic of motivation and how you help small business owners to understand how it's affecting them and the teams and how you help to guide them to improve effectiveness overall.
Yeah, it's such a great question, and motivation is something that we're constantly hearing, and it's thrown out all the time, whether it be related to something you're individually working towards or something that we're trying to get our teams aligned to do. And the fascinating part about working with in a coaching capacity with leaders is building awareness around, what is motivation and where are we trying to get to and what are the things that are distracting us from maybe achieving this. I think a great place to start with questions like this, where that really get you thinking, is trying to understand like what is motivation, right? And how do I describe it? How do I know what it is when I've got it? How do I know what it is, right? And so when I kind of sit with that, and I was thinking about this as we were, getting ready for this podcast and this conversation, is I describe motivation as it's a spark of energy alignment, and it's something that it's a drive that we all individually possess that can be really, really helpful for us when we're starting something new, or as leaders when we're trying to get people aligned and moving in the same direction. Equally, when we don't have it, it's something that can really be an energy drain for us, for our teams, for our organization, for us individually. And trying to motivate individuals is something that I find is it's really, really hard. And so when you find yourself asking the question of, motivation seems like I need some more of that. How do I get me some motivation, right? I think we're asking the wrong question, to be honest. Yeah. And so if motivation, and stop me if you guys would like to interject, but motivation, if that's that internal drive that's helping you move towards a goal or an action or a state of being, I think we have to get to the real meaty part of it, which is why. Why do I need motivation? What is it that I'm trying to get to on the other side of this motivation at this moment that's really opening things up for me? And so I'll pause there. That's a big thing that we work with when we're coaching, right? How do we get on the other side of the thing that we're noticing first?
I love the fact that motivation is one of those things that you feel that people don't necessarily have to have at the beginning of the process. That is something that they can kind of explore and discover along the way. The reality is, a lot of times we have to take action even if we're not completely motivated. So, taking that time to really establish what are those habits and routines that just need to be done and finding the kind of commitment to get it done is just super important.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we're thinking about motivation, I mean, it's a wonderful spark, and I love being motivated, right? When you really think about it and you sense into how do I feel when I'm motivated, right? I'm energized, I'm smiling, I can do anything in the world, right? The motivation is wonderful, but it's fleeting. It's not always there with us. And so when we're when I'm working with clients and we're having these deeper conversations about how do we get more motivation, or how do we find how to sustain motivation, if you will, we have to bring awareness to a lot more things that are happening around us, because oftentimes motivation is actually not the thing that we're lacking. We're lacking it in the moment, but it's not the fundamental challenge that we're facing.
Yeah, I really like that as well because I think many coaches and folks in other areas deal with that personally or deal with that with their team. And because your role is to support your client in understanding how their performance can improve, how they can show up as their best self, once they have an understanding of motivation, the role that it plays, then how do you help them manage that as you're meeting with them and supporting them on a regular basis in that coach client relationship?
Yeah. I think it's an important thing to understand, and to share a little bit of light as to what those conversations might look like, which, you know, the client is bringing in something that is very topical for them. It's right there in front of them. It's sometimes yelling at you, this is an issue. I can't get my team to care as much as I do about this thing. Or why won't everyone just do this thing I'm asking for, right? It's so simple. Well, I think when we really pause and we center ourselves, there's a lot more going on there. And so when I'm working with our clients, we like to start out with, yes, bring what's coming up for you. Let's bring it into the room, and then let's ground ourselves. And we know there's a lot of information out there around grounding, around somatic exercises, but when we're tapping into just the emotions and the things going on in our heads, we are missing a lot of sensory data that's happening in our bodies. So, one of the first things that we do to uncover some of those answers is to really sense them and calm our state and start to become aware of all the things around us in a situation, right? So, if you're a leader right now struggling with trying to get your team motivated to work towards a goal, what are the things that are actually at bay around here that you can become aware of? So, is it individuals and interactions on a team? Is it a communication? What's the trust like on your team? Is it an environment in the work environment? What's happening that you can identify? And then what are the things that you can't see that you need to become aware of in order to move past this moment of my team doesn't have motivation? What else is under there? And oftentimes a lot of the things that are illuminated, it's around there's a misalignment. Maybe there's a misalignment and understanding how I fit into something, understanding where someone has resources or doesn't to achieve something, or maybe it's a lack of clarity that your team has on how we're getting somewhere. Maybe it's the goal is actually not the right goal. You're trying to go over here, but your team's aimed over here. So we really have to sense in and understand the full situation and then understand what's possible on the other side. Sometimes that's sparked by motivation, or at least the conversation is.
I love that. That actually moves us right into our next question, and I'm gonna let Dorian take that.
What I'm hearing from you is that sometimes employees just, there's a misalignment between what they're being asked to do and what they want to do, and that can lead to poor motivation. As you're working with small business owners, how do you help to reconcile that gap between what that employee really wants to be doing and what the team needs them to be doing?
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of the biggest things we work through, right? A place I love to start is with the mindset you're approaching this conversation with, right? And that's one of the important parts about grounding into the moment that we're in, grounding into the presence, really taking a third eye view, if you will, of the situation around us, because it's easy to get emotionally caught up in a situation about your feelings. And there's a story that you tell about what's happening, and having a coach here to help you reflect and understand the bigger thing that may be at play is how you start to unlock effectiveness in those conversations. So one of the things that we'll do is while you're sitting with an individual and you're going, so and so is just not performing as needed, we can take a step back and really sit into a place where we're empathizing with where that individual is, and maybe we're understanding what that individual's strengths are, perhaps what motivates them, right? So, do they like recognition that they're getting? Have you encouraged them in any kind of way? Are they clear on what you're expecting of them? Is it measurable? When we start to tap into all these tools that we have and all these systems that we can build around supporting our teams, then we really start to identify a lot of times there aren't things in place that help those conversations to be effective. So when we can remove ourselves from the emotion and the frustration that you experience as a leader and really take a moment to go, what am I allowing? What culture, what systems are in place to help this person achieve what they're trying to get to? Then we really start to get to some juicy things and some clear action items.
For me, that brings up the importance of both tone and energy. As the leader of an organization, the way that you engage with your team is contagious. If you're anxious, if you're uncertain, that can impact how they're showing up. So really taking the time to think about how am I going to be most effective in this moment, and how do I need to engage with my employees so that they can see the purpose in what I'm asking them to do and really can try to be aligned, I think is going to be a game changer for those leaders that are trying to improve the motivation and the effectiveness of their team.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, well, Erin, one of the things that our listeners tend to look for, wait for as they're listening is like that next step. What can they do? We're talking about a coaching relationship, a coaching experience that is never a one off. But folks many times want to know where to start or need to be reminded where to start. What would you say to a listener as it relates to maybe something they can do today or this week or this weekend to get started around the issue of motivation?
Yeah, yeah. Great question. Let me think about it for a moment to have a really solid takeaway. When I think there's first something that we have to understand about motivation, and we covered it at the beginning, but motivation is not a sustainable state. It's that spark, it's that energy alignment that I mentioned. And so we can work towards that spark, but we can't rely on motivation to get us to where we want to be forever. And so really understanding the state that you might be in is a great place to start, and I can offer something there. But a great thing to consider as you're moving into this week or into the weekend and thinking about the next week ahead is, what do I have that I can fall back on? What kind of systems in my team can I fall back on to help them sustain working towards a goal that we have? What is the culture like? And is it creating an environment where people can trust each other? We can communicate, we can resolve conflict very easily. And so when we think about that, that's an awesome place to start as a leader. As an individual, I'm thinking about, what systems do I have each day to allow me to be my best self? What kind of consistency can I have in my day? And that could be something as easy as starting off your day in the same way. That could be something as easy as saying, I'm making a commitment to myself to maintain a moment of meditation, to maintain a walking routine. I think a solid takeaway is, how do we find consistency? So you can blow that out into a workplace environment, but you really need to start with yourself and identifying what's going on for you.
I really, really like that. You had me thinking about what I could do, and almost trying to look at reverse engineering that by saying, how can I be effective and productive and successful without motivation? And so the notion that if I can put routine into my work, into my life, consistency into my work, into my life, and then try to max that out and be able to layer in some kind of frosting on the cake, that is the motivation, that is that spark of energy that's in alignment. That's magic. So I really hope that our audience caught that. So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Erin. We're at the point in this podcast where we like to pivot and allow the coaches to exercise their superpower. So I'd love to hear, what question do you have for Dr. Rudy and myself?
I'm actually curious to expand on that point that we just landed from, and I'm curious to know, each one of you comes from a really incredible background, and you all have a passion for people in this coaching practice and empowerment as well. And what do you find energizes you, and what does drain you?
So, Erin, I'll start off with that. I just had the opportunity yesterday to do a training for new employee orientation. And more than 15 years ago, I started my career teaching. I was in the classroom at small liberal arts colleges. And I always knew that I loved that. But as I've moved away from it, I may only get 2 or 3 opportunities a year to actually get in the classroom, kind of. And I tell you, I walked out of that. I probably did 30, 35 minutes, but I walked out and just had that old feeling of, it was just very rewarding, because it wasn't like I was just going in to share information. I kind of go in with a game plan, almost like a coach's game script of, hey, I'm going to do X because I want them to learn or understand or be exposed to Y. And we're going to run through these things, and they're going to have an experience. And so that whole process energizes me, because I'm a builder at heart, and I just happen to kind of build, or like building, learning experiences. And so that motivates me to kind of just see a plan kind of come to fruition and feel good about, not everybody, smiling at you for the entire time, or raising their hand, or just whatever you can get to move them forward, and see that they value what you've given them, and then hopefully see them use it in the future so they can be successful. That's super motivating for me.
And I can see that in you, and I can hear that in your tone, in your response, and wow, that's really great.
Well, about a year ago, I came across this assessment called Working Genius, and there's actually a book that goes along with it. And the Working Genius model concept is all around that there's 6 different types of work. And the better that you understand what type of work is your genius, and the more you can spend time inside of that type of work, the less frustration you have, the more motivation you're going to have, and the more success you're going to have. So for me as an individual, After reading the book and doing the assessment, I really embraced that wonder and ideation are my two geniuses. I can, sit with business owners all day long, come up with ideas for improving their business, and really help them to grow. My frustration or the thing that I don't love doing is repetitive tasks, and that gets into tenacity. Back when I was a manager, I just really did not enjoy having to do the exact same thing every day, multiple times a week. So, as a individual, I think it's super important that we understand what are those things that give us energy and try to spend more time doing those things. And then conversely, what are those things that cause frustration that take our energy away? The more we can spend time in our genius and the less time we can spend in our frustrations, the more we're going to thrive within our work.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. And I love the working genius.
Well, Erin, we've been trying to keep our podcasts short and concise, but we never end without giving our guests an opportunity to tell our audience how they can connect with you in case they're really interested in pursuing a coaching relationship with you. So, can you share the best way for folks to connect with you?
Absolutely. You can reach me at yourgrowthedge.org or just send me an email at hello@yourgrowthedge.org. I'll be on either end of those. So you can also look me up on LinkedIn as Erin Myers. So 3 points for you. I'd love to connect with anyone who's interested.
That's great. And we'll make sure that in all of our promotions, whether we're sharing it on LinkedIn, when it goes up to Spotify, all those points of contact will be highlighted so folks can connect with you. Dorian, before we end, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, if you're a business owner and you're looking for somebody that can help you get in touch with who you are now and who you want to be, I encourage you to reach out to Erin. I've had the privilege to do a coaching session with Erin, and I was just blown away with the calmness that she brought to that experience. She really helped me to sort through some different things that I was trying to get a little bit of clarity on, and that is really one of the things that great coaches have the ability to do. From a coaching perspective, she's very somatic in her approach, meaning she helps you to really understand your body and pay attention to it. I am a very action-oriented coach. I was trained on the coactive model, which is really focused on the combination of doing and being. And a lot of my coaching is around helping people define their goals, come up with strategies, and hold themselves personally accountable. If you're a small business owner, an individual with ADHD, or a business professional that's looking to make a career transition, I would love to have the opportunity to work with you. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching program, you can visit www.yourpathexecutivesolutions.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, where I share a lot of information around leadership effectiveness, time management, and just helping people be the best version of themselves.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to come on. It's been a pleasure.
We want to thank you as well. And if you want more information about the Power Six Leader system, please reach out to us on our website at www.power6leader.com. Dorian, Erin, and myself, I have a pretty strong presence on LinkedIn. You can find us, search us by our name, and we actually do a good job of sharing content. So we'd love to connect with you. Please like and share the show with your friends if you found this valuable to you. And we'll see you again next time on the Coaching Gold podcast. Thanks and have a great day.